Hey, let me say good morning to our listeners. Let me say good morning to our viewers of Classic Radio GBN TV. Good morning. Welcome to The Point. I'm your host, Chiti. I'm going to be with you for the next hour or so. It's Thursday, the 13th day of February, 2025. Good morning once again to all our listeners and viewers, wherever you may be, especially those of you via our social media platforms. Good morning and welcome. Let me say good morning to, of course, my guest this morning from the Special Victims Unit of the RGPF. Of course, the Technical Constable Damien Frank with us this morning. Damien, good morning and welcome. I guess it's okay. I can call you Damien.
Yes, definitely. Of course, we would
Good morning to you, man, and welcome. And I should say Happy New Year, Happy Independence, everything together.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday too.
I celebrate my birthday in the next 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yes,
so happy advance.
Yes, thank you.
Greetings go out to you, man. Hope you enjoy the day when it comes around. Man.
Thank you very much, GT, and it's indeed my pleasure being with you again this morning. Good morning to the listening public, and thank you guys for having me.
Oh, you're certainly welcome. Our focus of conversation this morning, we're talking domestic violence.
Yes.
You know, we've been having a little bit of off-air conversation as relates to this, the seriousness of this matter. That sometimes folks seems to think it's something that we won't bother with. They shouldn't bother with. Or like or some folks would say in general conversation, that people business.
That people business.
But it's not always that simple to pass over.
Yes.
Because you know there are consequences that could derive from that. Both the victim and the individual committing that particular crime against each other. It's deemed as a crime.
Yes.
You would say it's deemed as a crime, been committed. Now, my question to get the ball rolling off this morning: how serious of a concern is it for the RGPS as it relates to domestic violence, especially within our close-knit communities here in Grenada?
Well, good morning again, and I start off saying that of course it is very serious to the RGPF. That's why I'm here this morning, to edify the public and to let persons know that they are help for them. You know, we are the Special Victims Unit. We are solely responsible for dealing with all matters of domestic violence, and of course we take these matters very serious, right? Whether you're a first-time complainant, a second-time complainant, a third-time complainant, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the police have a responsibility to act and respond to each and every call of a domestic violence report, and we have been doing that, and I'm very take those things very, very serious.
Why should we as a general public not condone these particular acts against individuals?
I believe at the end of the day, each and every person has a responsibility to ensure that we fight crime together as a nation, right? And not only the police, because most of the times the police may not be the first respondent. We may have a neighbor or some good citizen just passing by in town and be a witness to domestic violence. And again, as you rightfully said, most persons, they will say, oh, that is not my business. That is man and woman. And we say no to that. We ask person, let us come together and stamp out against domestic violence. You understand? Because it is serious, it is prevalent, and we want to stamp out against domestic violence, and we have to come to a common understanding where we have to understand, let these abusers know that we're not going to accept such behavior. Such behaviors is not acceptable because there are consequences for the actions.
Would you say from your personal experience in dealing in matters of that nature, is it a form of illness of that particular individual or individuals who commit these crimes, or is it just something that individuals just do?
It could go both ways.
Yeah.
It could be both ways. Sometimes, as we was discussing earlier and before the show start, a lot of times we as children, when we grow up with our parents and we see the kind of impact that sometimes we don't know the kind of impact, I should say, that we as parents have on our children when we behave in such unacceptable behavior. So your young girl or your young boy may grow up seeing you being abusive to mommy, right? And at the end of the day, they grew up in life. They did now transform to an adult and think it's acceptable. You understand? It's okay for my boyfriend to slap me. It's okay for my boyfriend to speak all kind of manner of insulting language towards me, because at the end of the day, that's how I feel love. That's how I think he loves me. But at the end of the day, it's not acceptable.
Because you probably saw mommy be accepting what your dad was doing to her at a particular time.
Definitely.
And she probably never complained. You understand? Yes, she probably really never complained.
Definitely. It's time to break the cycle,
If we have to ask, this question also, who are the main victims when it comes to domestic violence?
Well, we have seen...
Let's talk in a Grenadier framework. Who are the main victims we see in domestic violence?
Most of the times it's women.
The women.
Yes. Most of the times it's women. We have seen, and I must say that we have seen some men come into our unit and report being victims of domestic violence, and I applaud those men, because at the end of the day, GT, sometimes we hear persons saying that, oh, but you as a big man, you're going to the police and make a complaint saying that your wife saying things, and you think it's laughable, but that's not laughable. At the end of the day, their life is very much important, just as being, so it's not based on gender, whether it's male and we just go with the male and then we just ignore the males and say, man, you're a big man, you're strong, you could handle that, you're a strong back man. You understand? But most of the times we are seeing the females being coming forward and make reports against the opposite sex.
When it comes to the male part, it's not only the physical part of it. You may say a man is physically strong, but there's a mental deterioration that takes place when it comes to that also.
If you may give me the opportunity to just touch on some of the points that I have listed here, that we can say, because domestic violence is not only about being physical, right? We have emotional abuse, we have economical abuse, we have psychological abuse, you understand? But one may ask the question, GT, exactly what is domestic violence when you're looking for a term to be explained? And he said it means any controlling or abusive behavior that harms the health, safety or well-being of any person, any child, and include but does not limit the following: physical abuse or threats of physical abuse. So the person is actually hitting you, right? Sexual abuse, threats of sexual abuse, emotional, verbal, or psychological abuse. I always say that one is a deep one. Growing up, I think there was a saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will not harm. GT, I can swear to this, that sometimes a man will prefer you hit him
that you tell him something that goes deep, that goes even more deep, because sometimes it touches you internally.
You understand? You understand? You have to be very careful with what we say to our partners at the end of the day, because it can have a long-term effect on them. Economic abuse, intimidation, harassment, stalking, damage to property, entry to the applicant's residence without consent, where the parties do not share the same residence. So all these, most of the times, well, not most of the time, but as you said, they fall under the criminal offense, right? So, of course, for the physical abuse, you can have somebody being charged for causing harm, wounding, right? Sexual abuse, you may have somebody being charged for indecent assault, right? Intimidation, harassment, may follow up on some words of insult or anything like that afterwards, but domestic relationship, that means a relationship between an applicant and a respondent in any of the following ways. They are married to each other, including marriage according to any law, custom, or religion. they are parents of a child, whether by birth or through adoption. They are family members related, again, whether it's by birth or through adoption. They would be family members related. They are or in an engagement, dating, or visiting relationship, which includes but is not limited to an actual or perceived romantic, intimate, or sexual relationship of any duration or so. And those explanation there just explains who can apply for a protection order, right? Under the Domestic Violence Act, which is Act number 19 of the 2010 Continuous Revised Laws of the Laws of Grenada.
All right. We drew for a break. Let's take that break when we come back. When we come back, I want you to maybe give an explanation of the most common type of domestic violence we see here in Grenada when we come back from the break. Stay with us, folks. We're coming right back. Don't touch your dial. It's Classic Radio, GBN TV. It's to the point. Don't touch your dial. Stay with us.
Are you ready for the ultimate celebration of love? Saturday, February 15th, Love Fest takes over the breathtaking Quarantine Point Recreational Park from 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. Live band performances from Boise and the Bad Squad Band, Ajamo, Cole Baldio, Solid the Band, Pan Wizards, plus DJ Danny, Mr. Cheeks, and Fearless Kevon. Indulge in chocolate making, candle making, outdoor dining, Latin dancing, Cupid's Playground, a singles mixer, beauty bar, Love Fest shop, and a cocktail and drinks bar. Get your tickets now, just $100 for one, $180 for two, at Grenadian Optical, Melville Street and Spiceland Mall, Eventbrite, or GoToFet.com. Or pay more at the door. Visit www.yourlovefest.com for updates or follow at Your Love Fest on social media. See you at Love Fest, Saturday, February 15th at Quarantine Point Recreational Park.
Grenada is indeed beautiful and worth exploring. We firmly believe that you should be allowed to do so. Why not explore Grenada with James Services Corp Off-Road Tours? Whether you decide to explore Grenada with your family, spouse, or large group of friends, we are ready to welcome you. Our tours are guaranteed to leave you with wonderful memories of Grenada if you are visiting, and excitement if you live here. Book a tour with us now by visiting our website www.jamessvcs.com. Call 1473-442-3769 or email info@jamessvcs.com. James Services Corp Off-Road Tours.
I am Dennis James Williams, owner and director of James Services Corp. Looking forward to welcoming you to the beautiful island of Grenada to explore with James Services Corp Off-Road Tours. See you soon.
Explore our beautiful island of Grenada from an angle that is unique and off-road, but equally fun. We are 100% family-friendly tours.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, to the point here on Classic Radio, GBN TV. With us this morning, we have Detective Constable Damien Franklin this morning, and we are certainly talking about domestic violence, the awareness, and so forth. And he, of course, is representing the Special Victim Unit of the RGPF. Welcome back. Let's continue on this trend. I did mention to you when I come back, I want to get a bit of a stats on the most common type of domestic violence that are probably reported here in Grenada.
The most common type of abuse I will see that we are seeing being reported at the Special Victims Unit, I will see, is physical abuse.
Yeah.
Right? Physical abuse. Then I will see persons being stalked, intimidation, persons coming to the partner and just feel at the end of the day they can see whatever they want to them. Psychological abuse is another one again, right? So it may not, and then you was asking in terms of, some of the signs.
Yes.
Some of the signs.
There's always going to be, when I say the signs, there's always going to be a reason why you may see somebody, a female that is not of their normal self for some reason or the other. You may know that female to be somebody who is very jovial for some reason or the other, or they may just start acting out in various ways that they have never been doing before.
That's right.
So what are those signs you may see that could tell you, well, something is not right going on with that individual?
That's right. So, as you rightfully say, as a teacher in a school or as the announcer in a radio station, you may be close to some of your co-workers and know at the end of the day who is jovial, and who is a little bit to themselves. But let us look at the persons that is very high-spirited, very on a positive mindset, very open and welcome. They always introduce a conversation, always smiling. And then all of a sudden now you see that child comes into the classroom and for some reason they are not participating into these class activities. They always shying away, or they just in their self zone, in their own comfort zone. Now that child may be affected mentally, psychologically, because of what she would have seen happen to mommy or daddy at home. That person coming on the workplace now maybe just on the brink of maybe going and commit suicide, because at the end of the day they think that there is no help. You understand? Maybe they come to the police and they find that the help they may have been given is not as strict as they would have liked it to be. You understand? Yesterday I was on Mikey's program and I was telling him the penalty for breaching the protection order is a term of $500, or you can get 5 years in prison. And
some folks will still see that as being very lenient. Yeah?
Exactly. And
$500
see that slap on the
just
wrist.
a slap on the wrist.
It's much more important than it's not more important than a life. You understand? So some persons may not like the whole aspect of coming to the police and coming to but at the end of the day, the police is here to help. And there are persons, other entities that are there to help as well.
All right. Now, there's another question. There's always that initial stage of domestic violence that you may see, happening. That initial stage. How can one detect how can one not have that continuing or happening to them from the initial stages of it happening?
Glen, you're in a relationship with Sandra, right? You with Sandra. Sandra is a very beautiful young lady.
Hope my wife don't hear you saying that.
And Sandra loves taking care of herself, right? Sandra is very confident in the way that she carries herself in public, and she just like making herself look good. But then all of a sudden now, you think that Sandra should dress according to what you say. So I don't want you to be wearing this. I don't want you to do that. So
cut the lipstick out, cut the short clothing, all of these things.
You can't be doing this. You can't be going there. When you're on walk, I want to hear from you 24/7. Every hour you should be calling to check up on me. Those are controlling, and it can be seen as a sign of getting yourself into domestic violence or in a violent relationship. So of course you have to pay close attention to those.
All right. Interesting. No, there are probably individuals listening to this program this morning and probably experiencing the same, for some reason, experience the same issues that we're speaking about right now, or going through the same dilemmas that we're speaking about right now. No, there's always support that's available.
Definitely.
There's support that's available for you locally. Talk to us about the support that is available for individuals out there in relation to that.
Right. So in terms of support, let me just start with the protection order, because of course it's a form of support. Right. So persons who may be a victim of domestic violence, they can come to the unit. Of course, we obtain a statement from you, and when that statement is obtained, you will get the assistance assistance in applying for a protection order. So we assist you with applying for the protection order. You go to the magistrate, not to the magistrate court as yet, sorry, but to the registry, and you pay for that stamp, a stamp that will give you the authority to go and apply for that protection order in that the magistrate court. You see the magistrate court, you relate your case to her, she listens, and once the magistrate finds that there is sufficient grounds to grant you that protection order, then she will grant you that protection order.
All right.
We can touch more on the protection order a little later on, but as you speak about the support, I start with the protection order. We have, in terms of counseling, we have the Ministry of Social Development. They are the ones that will normally do the counseling sessions with victims. We have probation unit for persons who are on juvenile, who is a juvenile. We have CPA. They provide counseling session as well for the men who may think that at the ending of the day they are victims and they need help as well. There are also help for you. I know of Legal Aid having a program called the Man-to-Man program that assists and help men to overcome those fears and become better persons.
All right. So those are just the basic support that is available locally for individuals who may be going through some kind of violence.
Definitely. And then if we have a criminal offense being committed, then we make charge and we make arrests.
All right. I want to expand a wee bit on the protection order. We know a lot of folks sometimes decide they want to get it to that stage because of the fact that, hey, I don't think I want to deal with that anymore. I've had enough. You got to that stage where you say you're fed up, as we say locally. I'm fed up with this happening. It's happening too much. So explain a wee bit about the protection order and what it really offers you as a victim.
Right. A protection order or a restraining order is an order used by the court to protect persons who are victims of domestic violence. A person may be entitled to apply for a protection order on the grounds that the respondent, which is the accused, engaged in domestic violence. An application for a protection order may be by the spouse of the respondent, a member of a shared household, either on his or her own behalf or on behalf of any other member of the household. Right? So the protection order is granted. Right? After the protection order is granted, but you will have a chat with the magistrate. The magistrate grants you that what we first refers to as an interim order.
Okay.
Right. That interim order is just as effective as a protection order, but the magistrate wants to give the respondent, that's the person you're taking the protection order out against, the opportunity to come and state their case as to why they don't think a protection order, because it's a very powerful document, why a protection order should not be granted against them. And of course, after that protection order is granted, the maximum is 3 years.
Yes.
So within that 3 years, once you as the victim undergoes any form of intimidation, stalking, any use of physical abuse, threatening language, insulting language, that person breached the order. And as I said earlier on, the term can be $500 or to both $500 or 5 years in prison.
Okay. And that's just basically for the protection. What if someone, and I said when we did speak about, just make a sake of asking you that in terms of someone deciding to violate that protection order, we move on from that. No. The protection order come along. You spoke about the other support that's available out there. Now let's talk a wee bit about the role of the police in protecting particular victims and protected victims who especially have gotten themselves into this domestic violence being thrown out against them from a particular perpetrator. So tell us a wee bit the role of the police in this.
Definitely. It is the duty of each and every police officer, even though there is a notified unit, which is a special victims unit, to deal with matters of domestic violence. But each and every police officer shall respond to every complaint of domestic violence, whether or not the person making the complaint or the report is the victim. So sometimes you may have a person, a couple, who may meet previous, or a young lady, for example, whether it be male or female, who may make previous complaints before.
Yeah.
But they think again, for some reason, either they fall back in love, newfound love, and they just think that, at the end of the day, if I go back to the police, they may see me as a joker. No, that is not an excuse for the police to not respond to the call, and therefore sometimes they may not call because at the end they may feel right.
I went a couple of times, and then I'm still going back.
I'm still going back. No, a neighbor can call now, and the police has the obligation to respond to that report. Right? The police have to take each and every call as serious, because at the end of the day, we can lose a life. Upon the report of a breach of a protection order to a police officer by a person or a victim, the police officer shall inform the person or the victim of the right to lodge a complaint against the respondent if a criminal offense happens, right? Because sometimes at the end of the day, you may not have a criminal offense being happening.
Yeah.
You understand? For example, you may see have a protection order. Well, for example, you may be in a relationship and the relationship is over, but that person still coming around your property. You see they liming around the neighborhood and you're scared for your life based on threats that may be made, right? So the police officer have to respond to the call and of course inform, right? Police powers of arrest without a warrant. A police officer may arrest any person at the scene of an incident of domestic violence without a warrant whom he or she reasonably suspects for having committed an act of domestic violence. The duty of a police officer is to assist victims where a police officer has entered onto the premises, is to assist a person who has suffered injury, ensure the welfare and the safety of a child or the dependent who may be on the premises, or prevent any further breach of the law.
Okay.
A police officer at the scene of any incident of domestic violence or when the incident of domestic violence is reported should inform the victim of his or her rights. So they have rights. And provide the victims with a printed copy of the information related to their rights. They are as follows. So the victim have one. They have the right to request the assistance of a member of the Royal Grenada Police Force in order to protect yourself and your children, and the member is obliged to provide you with information on how to obtain a protection order.
Okay.
The second rights you have, you may also request police assistance in locating and taking you and your children to a place of safety, including a shelter, the home of a family member or a friend or any other place of safety.
So which means the police have a right to assist you if you request those assistance.
Definitely.
Yes. All right.
And just let me stick up in here, but in terms of speaking of safety and police finding a place of shelter for persons, we do have the Ministry of Social Development assist in terms of that sometimes, right? In terms of finding police, because sometimes we may have somebody that may not feel comfortable to go by a family member for whatever reason.
They may prefer their own space for some reason.
They may prefer their own space. So we do contact the Ministry of Social Development and they assist with that area.
Okay.
If you or your child or children are in need of a medical treatment, you have the right to request a member of the Royal Grenada Police Force to assist you in obtaining such medical treatment.
Okay.
A protection order can be obtained from the court at any time, day or night, and will be served on the abuser for free of charge.
All right.
Let me just stick a pin there, because you heard the term day or night.
Yeah.
And we know that the magistrate court do operates within a
particular time frame. Yes.
So if it's a scenario where we get a complaint that we have a domestic violence report and the police respond to the report, the magistrate will say at 8 p.m. in the night, right?
Or even if it's midnight.
Even if it's midnight, right? The magistrate can grant the permission, the interim order based on the facts that we present.
Yes.
Right? And then afterwards, just for the safety of that person, just for the safety of the victim. Or again, we can also go with the way of contacting Ministry of Social Development and just holding that person in a safe area until the following day when the court is in operation.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
A protection order can be obtained from the court at any time, day or night. We touch on that. You may request that your address not be disclosed to your abuser. So even if we're finding a place of shelter for you, or you think that you're independent enough, you have a place to go, you can let the police know, you can let the magistrate know that I'll be moving out of his premises, or I'll be moving out of our shared home, but I do not want him to know my new address. Okay. And the police have to respect your request.
Even though there's children involved and stuff like
even
that?
Even if there's children involved.
Okay.
Even if there is children involved. You may also request the court to evict the respondent or the respondent from preventing you to enter the shared household. This order is of a temporary nature, and if you wish it to become firm, you will require to appear at court at a later date.
Okay.
If you and your children require any counseling or support, you should contact, well, of course, as we said, CPAs for Children, Ministry of Social Development, and we have the legal aid counseling sessions, who can offer service to you and your children. You also have the right to lodge a criminal complaint against the abuse. If a criminal offense has been committed against yourself and your children, you may do this now or any time in the future. I will say now, do it now.
You don't think you let it pass over and think, and
definitely.
See, well, hopefully that individual may behave the next time, right?
Definitely. Should you obtain a protection order or lodge a criminal complaint in which false facts are knowingly alleged, you may be convicted for an offense. If you do not understand any of the above information, we're saying you may request more details from myself or any other member of the Royal Grenada Police Force that you may be comfortable with. Yeah. So those are just the rights of the victim, right? And of course, that last section there, before the person is going to apply for the protection order, I normally take a statement from them, and at the end of the statement there's an declaration that you have to read to the victim, right? And that declaration it normally speaks of you giving the statement and what you're saying is true and correct, and if it's not true and correct, that you can be charged for giving a false statement.
All right, understandably so. A question that come to mind. Individual has been abused, going through a domestic abuse, and for some reason or the other, they decided, well, I'm not going to go through the process anymore. After getting it to a stage where the protection orders maybe have been granted, what are the consequences that could derive for that individual there?
Just repeat that, miss.
What I'm saying, I have gone through the process. Getting a protection order against an individual. Mm-hmm. All right. Mm-hmm. I decide to forego on it for various reasons. Is there any consequences that could derive for that individual on that?
No, not really.
No, you just said you forget it and you leave it like that.
Not really. At the end of the day, that's up to you. That's your rights as well.
Right. Is there a difference between that protection order and there was the other idea? I think I lost a trail of thought. And restraining order. Is there a difference between the two?
No,
they are basically the same.
Basically the same thing. So as I said earlier on, the first process is you sitting before the magistrate and explaining to the magistrate why is it you're applying for a protection order.
Yeah.
Right? The magistrate will listen to your case, and once she finds there is sufficient grounds to grant you that protection order, she now grants you with what we call an interim order.
Yeah.
An interim order is just as effective, as the protection order.
Okay.
But there is a date that both parties, both the applicant and the respondent, needs to return to court so the order can be made final. So both parties has knowledge, so it can't go behind the respondent back and take out a protection order, and just in case the persons come into the police and say, well, he saw me down the road talking to Jim and he slaps me in my face, and then after the police can. So once that person was not served, once the respondent was not served, the protection order is not effective.
It's not effective until they actually
So if
they know that and then they still commit the crime,
so the magistrate will give you a date. So let me say today is the 13th. The magistrate may say, all right, your next date of hearing is March 4th. Right? Once a person is not solved until March 4th, then the matter is adjourned for the police to find time to solve the person.
Okay.
And after the person is solved, the police now has the responsibility of going before the magistrate or going before the registrar at the registry and swear that he would have solved that person.
Okay.
Right? So he has to bring the proof of the affidavit before the magistrate saying that yes, that person has been solved.
Okay, great. We drew for a break. Let's take it when we come back. When we come back, of course, we continue the conversation. We're also going to open up the lines just in case there's, of course, a listener and viewer of it that may have a question or two they may like to ask. Feel free to do so in the next segment when we do come back. Stay with us, folks. To the point, Classic Radio GBN TV. We will be right back.
Grenada Love Fest is coming. Saturday, February 15th will be buzzing. Quarantine Point Recreational Park is the place where you surrender to music and love's sweet embrace. Early bird tickets await your call at gotofed.com and Grenadian Optical. Buy one for you or save on tickets for two. Follow at Your Love Fest. Stay in the know. Visit yourlovefest.com for more info. The sun will set, the moon will rise. All at Love Fest 2025.
In Grenada, sports aren't just a game, they're a way of life. They teach discipline, teamwork, and resilience. They inspire the next generation to push boundaries and chase excellence. That's why the Investment Migration Agency of Grenada is proud to support sports initiatives as part of our commitment to youth and national development. When we invest in sports programs,
Looking to take your business to new heights? Advertise with GPN on our social media platforms and get noticed by our 138,000 plus followers. Reach a massive engaged audience ready to connect with your brand. No matter your business size, GPN is here to help you grow. Contact us today at admin@gpn.gd or WhatsApp 407-8458 to get started.
Welcome back to our listeners. Welcome back to our viewers once again to The Point Classic Radio. We invite the final segment of today's program. We're talking domestic violence. And of course, I did mention you have the option of calling. And if there's a question or two you may like to ask in relation to our conversation this morning, feel free to do so in this segment. We have our first caller. Caller, you're live. Good morning.
Good morning, JT, and morning to the officer. I didn't get his name. But the topic that is being discussed is very important. But my concern over the years has been, we assume that people are logical. So when the authority placed an order, it will be followed. And even in Grenada, I'm sure there are people who lost their life in the past, and especially, I mean, I know more about abroad than here, where people lost their life in spite of the fact that there was orders, protection orders. My question is, are we considering trying to stop it before it starts, in terms of the kind of society, the kind of social environment that a person come into and evolve into? Because to me, a lot of it had to do with the person, the kind of experience the person would have had. Because if a person grew up in a decent, I don't mean decent as people mean, but in an environment that he or she is allowed to be respected and so on, I doubt overnight the person will become abusive and disrespectful. So are we considering how we work in the other agencies like the schools, the society, I mean the community and so on, how we could minimize that? Because if a person is determined to do harm to the next person, no law could stop him. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. I guess you get to just some of the callers.
Yes, thank you, caller, for that. Yes, of course, the police is always against domestic violence, and he's been saying that have we been going out to the schools? Have we been going out to the community? What I can say is that yes, to that. The police is solely based and is highly motivated and is on board with the community. We love community projects, we love community policing, so to speak. And the Special Victims Unit, now and again, we visit schools and do different topics. So, of course, domestic violence or any form of child abuse is a part of our daily conversations with them. We do community patrols, so on most times we will just get up and go out to any of the communities and have one-on-one engagements with persons, try to see if we can pick up on anything and edify them as to what the problem may be, and edify them and ensure that at the end of the day they know that there is help for them.
Okay, we do have another caller. Caller, your life. Good morning.
Morning, my brother.
Good morning to you, sir.
Morning to you, yes. No, I'll be very brief. The level of confidentiality within this organization he's talking about, I want him to, just expound on it a little more. Confidentiality. Because too often the time, something happen in a neighborhood or community, and after the police intervene, you hear it on the street afterwards. I'll leave it right in.
Thank you, caller. Appreciate your contribution a whole lot.
Thank you very much. At the end of the day, a police officer receiving any form of information from any citizen of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit-Martinique must be of a professional level, because of course a police officer should conduct themselves as a professional, right? Confidentiality is key. I can boast of my department that when it comes to confidentiality, we have been respecting persons and their wish, and ensure that at the end of the day they are safe in coming to us and report and getting that help that they need.
Okay, great. Call off via WhatsApp. Good morning, you're live. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, and good morning to your guest.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Go right ahead, please.
Yeah, the domestic violence thing. I came to Grenada in 2006, and I did a domestic violence program show in the Trade Center, Mr. Bedo, and under the Kit Mitchell administration, element here helped me and everything like that. But a lot of people didn't want to know, you know what I mean? Because the women rather to stay there and suffer. And there is a big thing for it down there, you know what I mean? Under the men, under the domestic violence like this, they can't really do any better for themselves because the men control them to a T, they provide the bread and butter for them. and it's a sad situation, and the show ended up failing because a lot of people wasn't interested and a lot of people were frightened to come forward and support the show to make it a better place. And then a year later, I left the island and came back to the diaspora, and a year later, and the situation became worse, and people wanted me to come back and do something similar again. But there's no hope, because I think on the island a lot of women has no income, and the men them has wherever they hunt the money from and all that, and the women depend on a lot, and they feel like they can't do anything any better, so they just stay there and take the domestic violence.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you so much. I still want to agree and say there's no hope. There is hope for getting a resolution to this for some way or the other.
Of course there is. Of course there is. In terms of going back a little bit, just to take it back on the previous caller who spoke on confidentiality, of course someone can call in and share information with the police, and you don't need to state your name. There is no need to give your name or any contact information. All we require from the person, the caller, which is your name, the name of the parties that may be involved in a issue or in a problem, the relationship and sex of the parties, the number of the persons in the home, adults, children, or defendants, information relating to the history of domestic violence between the parties, the date and time of the offense or act was committed, and the type of abuse, weapon use, if they may know. Right? So once you have those information, you just share the information that you think that would be relevant to the police. You don't really have to state your name. See whether
it's me, Tom, that is calling, or any of that information. Okay, great. Caller, you're live. Good morning.
Yes, good morning to you, Doctor, and good morning to your guest.
Good morning.
Now, let me bring a different twist to the whole scenario. I listen to the guy, and he's very expansive, and his analysis of what is happening to us. But let me use these two words: literacy and humanity. And I'm asking the question, are we really, because we have a behavioral problem here, are we really literate? Are we really human beings? Do we accept that human behave in a particular way and animal behave in a particular way? And literacy, you have to behave in a literate way where people could understand you, understand your role, and so you could effectively operate in society. I think that is one of the problems here, self-identity. We are struggling with who we are, and therefore we don't know whether we are man or beast, and we don't know whether we're literate or illiterate. We're struggling with these two things, and so we, in that confusion state, we don't know what to do. So I think we need people to educate people along these two lines, because human beings behave in a certain way, animals behave in a certain way. And when you're literate, you behave in a way differently to if you are illiterate. And so we need to untangle this web there between humanity and literacy, so that people know exactly where they are, how they have to behave, whether they're illiterate or they are illiterate. Because you see, knowledge is not really literacy. Yeah?
All right. Thank you, Colin.
Right.
Thank you. For my personal, I don't think I agree with the caller in terms of someone's literacy level. There are someone who's very literate and can be someone who's committing a domestic violence against somebody else.
Definitely.
You understand? You do have individuals who may have gone to university and have the educational level at a particular height. You understand?
Yes.
But doesn't make them so because someone is illiterate they will commit more domestic violence. So I understand where the caller is coming from, but I don't agree to say that because someone is illiterate they will commit more violence against someone than someone who's not illiterate. I just beg to differ on that. Just a wee bit. We do have another caller. Caller live. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Now, I don't even know much about what you mean by domestic violence. Domestic violence, to me, means that anything that happens, perhaps in a home. Now, could an external person come into your home and cause violence with you? Is that domestic violence, or you're talking about husband and wife or keeper and this and that? This is what bothers me. I think anybody could commit some kind of offense, and at the same time, if people don't complain, then I don't know if it's domestic violence, whoever it is, whether the opposite sex or the same sex. And at the same time, could a man commit domestic violence against a man in Grenada? Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. You want to respond to the caller?
So just to clear up the thoughts of the caller, what we're saying here is domestic violence is violence of any person being in an intimate relationship, or persons who are the mother, the father, the uncle, the brother of a child or respondent and applicant, right? So if you have some stranger, some other male, female, whoever, come into your home and is causing harm to you, that is a different issue. Therefore, then the police may charge for trespassing and causing harm or wounding, whatever the offense may be after the investigation.
All right. So there's a totally different scenario there in terms of domestic. So domestic violence is more the violence that occurred between two folks
that's in a relationship. They have that blood relationship. They have that intimate relationship.
Okay, more or less. All right. We just have about 2 more minutes left on today's program. There was a correction you wanted to make in terms of that costing, in terms of what it will cost you, or the penalties, I should say, more or less, for individuals who violate that after an order being, of course, imposed upon them. You wanted to put a correction to that.
So my supervisor would have reached out to me and gave me some correction here in terms of the penalties if someone's breach a protection order. So early on I said that the fine could be $500 or up to 5 years in prison, and it's actually not. She's stating here that based on law it is saying not exceeding $5,000.
Not exceeding $5,000.
Right,
okay.
So it cannot exceed $5,000. $5,000 may be the limit.
All right.
On the second conviction, not exceeding $10,000.
Okay.
18 months for the first instance. Right, so you could be charged not exceeding $5,000 and get 18 months in prison. And for the second conviction, you can be charged for 2 years in prison, or not exceeding $10,000. For the third conviction or any other conviction, 5 years in prison.
Okay, understandably so. Of course, Detective, anything in closing before we take a wrap this morning? Anything you want to close?
Yes, definitely. So, for persons who may not be aware that the Special Victims Unit are solely responsible for investigating or assisting the general public in any matter of domestic violence. Of course, we deal with child abuse and sexual abuse as well, but we are here speaking of domestic violence. And of course, you can reach us on the number 440-4739, or our hotline number, which is 400.
All right. Once again, so let me thank you a whole lot for sharing information with me this morning. I certainly know there are listeners and viewers who are listening to this, and of course, and maybe going through instances of that for themselves, and certainly would like it to be taken care of, and certainly they'll reach out and have that have their lives in a more taken care of manner.
It will be our pleasure to do so.
All right. Once again, thank you. Hey, folks, that's how we're going to take a wrap for this edition of To The Point for today. Join me again tomorrow for another edition. Have yourself a good one, folks. Goodbye.